Ich bin hier bei Capcom in Hamburg und hier geht es gerade um Lost Planet 3. Deswegen sitzt neben mir auch dieser Mann hier, Andrew Szymanski. Der ist der Producer bei Capcom für Lost Planet 3 und den fragen wir jetzt mal so ein bisschen was zum Spiel, weil der weiß es wahrscheinlich besser als ich und besser als jeder andere. Hi Andrew. My first question would be, how come that Spark is doing the Lost Planet 3 development, because the other parts were done by Capcom itself?
Originally we sat down after the end of Lost Planet 2 to discuss what to do for the third installment, and Kenji Oguro, who's the franchise creative director and was the game director on the first two games internally at Capcom, came to me and said that he wanted to explore some new themes with the third game and really kind of bring the single-player campaign experience more towards a narrative-driven, sort of character-focused experience, and that he wanted to explore some cinematic techniques and really kind of make the game feel more, like an epic movie in that sense. And so that was sort of how we got the ball rolling to work with a Western developer. And then I vetted several different choices and ended up going with Spark because they were able to make a really impressive presentation on their vision for what they wanted to do for the game.
So what are the main difference between Lost Planet 1, 2 and now the third one?
Well, Lost Planet 1 is very much, you have the single player with Wayne, and it's kind of an arcade experience where you're, play a level, fight a boss, then play another level, fight a boss, etc. And then it has a separate multiplayer mode that was very popular. Lost Planet 2 sort of made everything into more of a multiplayer kind of party game atmosphere, where even in the campaign, it's designed to be played by 4 people going through, and then separate competitive multiplayer modes in addition to that. With Lost Planet 3, we're sort of taking it, again, in another direction, more similar to the first game, where the campaign mode is focused on Jim, who's the main character, and it's about his story from the time he arrives on the planet and basically follows his journey and his adventures. And it is a prequel. It does take place before the first game, so even though it's Lost Planet 3, it's actually the earliest one in the franchise. So we've got what we feel is a very strong cinematic campaign single-player mode, as well as the multiplayer modes that people expect as sort of 2 separate experiences in the same game.
So talking about the multiplayer modes, what can we expect there?
Well, we have 4 different multiplayer modes across 6 maps, so that's a total of 24 different permutations of gameplay. And we're talking about 2 of the modes here today, one of which is called Scenario Mode, and this has different types of rule sets for each map. One example is a map in which both teams, you've got the Nevik team and the Snow Pirate team, kind of start on different sides of the map, and then they have to defeat a giant acrid in the middle of the map, who then drops a thermal energy sample. You then pick up that sample, and each team is trying to carry that back to their home base. It's kind of like rugby with acrids, if you will. And if they do, they score a point and then repeat the process. So in scenario mode, each of the maps has its own distinct type of rules that all have kind of a story that's woven into them. And then the other mode we're talking about today is called Acrid Survival, and this is more of a horde mode where it's 3-on-3. All the other modes are 5-on-5, so a total of 10 players. Acrid Survival only is 3-on-3 for 6 players. In Acrid Survival, you have yourself and your other 2 teammates fighting against waves of acrids in order to earn more points. And then at the end, you'll actually compete and fight directly against the opposing team. So it's kind of horde mode with 2 waves of acrid, and then the third wave is fighting the other players.
So going back to the single player, obviously Dead Space 3 was like an ice planet. It was like very Lost Planet-ish. So what do you think about this? So what's the main difference between Dead Space 3 and Lost Planet 3?
Well, I think this was very much a coincidence where, we announced before Dead Space 3 did, but they obviously were working on that at the same time that we were developing this game. So I think this is just a case of what we call parallel evolution, where 2 teams were kind of working on similar concepts at the same time. That being said, Lost Planet has always been about the frozen landscapes, particularly in the first game, so we're really trying to get back to that. And I think once people actually play the games, they'll see that they're very different. Lost Planet 3 is much more more action focused. We have a few sort of suspense elements here and there, but they're quite few and far between. For the most part, it's about the exploration and seeing sort of how you can expand your reach across the different areas on the planet. So a lot of exploration-based gameplay, and then of course the action against the acrid creatures. And it's much less about suspense and things like that as it is about just straight-up shooting with using a bunch of different weapons against different types of creatures.
So, and Lost Planet 1 and 2 were, for me, very much about the boss fights, the huge acrid creatures. So what can we expect in Lost Planet 3?
Yes, that's very important to us, and I guarantee you that we're going to have very large bosses in this game as well.
Can you give me an example?
I don't want to spoil it, but we have some really cool boss fights, including against acrid that are on the scale of the category G acrid from Lost Planet 2.
So looking forward to Lost Planet 4 maybe, so on the next-gen platforms, what would the main difference be when you're doing a Lost Planet 4 on PS4 or Xbox 720, whatever the name will be?
Well, I mean, I want to finish this one and get this out and see how it does before really talking about the next one. But in terms of next-gen consoles in general, I think that it's going to be a lot about the connected features, as well as figuring out how to make games more about the overall experience in the community and how we can increase the longevity instead of just here's a disc with a game on it, buy it, finish it, and move on. And so that's going to be a challenge for all of us. And I'm excited to see what the first parties do with the new hardware.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.